What is up, guys? T-Man here, and today I'm bringing you another Pokemon analysis. So today I'm going to be talking about Nihilego, maybe breaking down a little bit of why Nihilego is good, why exactly it hasn't been exactly turning up so well at tournaments so far, and then kind of break down the sets that it's been running. So uh, Nihilego is a pretty cool Pokemon, as you see. The Poison Rock typing is something that's really cool. It hits a lot of things in the format with stabs, and it's not often that we get a special attacking rock type. In fact, I really can't think of any off the top of my head that have seen any particularly great use. So it's definitely an interesting Pokemon, something that we haven't really seen before, and one of my favorite Pokemon in the new format. So you can break down its base stats a little bit further, and you can see the really high HP, special attack, special defense, and speed, and then the really poor attack and defense. Of course, of the two poor stats, the defense is the one that's a little bit you know, underwhelming there because of the fact that you wanted to maybe stay on the field a little bit longer. But with the 109 HP stat, it's not exactly that terrible. It's usable. The special bulk, the HP and the special defense rivals that of like Cresselia. You're trading off. I think it's like 10 points of HP, so it's like really specially bulky, but it does have that downside of having a really weak defense stat. But 127 is definitely a very nice special attack stat, as well as a 103 speed stat, which just catches Garchomp there. So something that hits it really hard. You cannot speed it. A lot of people have run Focus Sash, of course, early on in the season, and then run stuff like Hidden Power Ice. So it's got a really cool set of stats there that are very unique and something that you can definitely work with. So Nihilego, why have we not been, or why is it good? Why have people been trying to use it? Like I said, the Poison and Rock typing is something that's really good in this format, and the Tapus, all of the fairies in this format, Arcanine, are also prevalent. Sludge Bomb being able to hit all the Tapus, and then there aren't too many things that rock typing hits in this format. There are Arcanine and Gyarados, I think Marowak's down here somewhere, and Torkoal. Like, those are okay targets. It's really the Arcanine we're worried about, though, since just having a Power Gem on any team just to hit Arcanine is really important. Just because of the fact that despite not being a large variety of Pokemon hit with rock moves, Arcanine is the most used Pokemon of VGC 2017. It's the most likely Pokemon you're going to see if you were to encounter a random team, so just being able to hit it all the time is really cool. And then of course most teams also have a Tapu, so immediately there's two things on a large majority of teams in VGC 2017 that Nihilego just hits super effectively right away. So with all this in mind, we have the monster speed stat, outspeeds a bunch of things in the format that aren't like Tapu Koko and Kartana. 103 is not like insane, but it's like very good for a special attacker with its its move pool. And then you can run it bulky. It's not something we've seen too much lately, since I think that people are more likely to run stuff like Focus Sash or Life Orb just because they want the fast special attacker aspect of Nihilego, whereas the bulky one plays completely differently. So there's definitely a few ways to play Nihilego, but the question then being, why is Nihilego not performing that well if we see it hitting Tapus and Arcanines and Gyaradoses and whatnot? It hits all these things really hard, but because of the fact that Garchomp is, like you see, very used in this format, it has a 4x weakness to ground, which is pretty bad. You have things to counteract this, like you can Focus Sash. You can run what are we running? Tapu Bulu to limit the damage of Earthquake, so that at least you can survive some hits from Garchomp if you are a bulkier Nihilego. But yeah, for the most part, you're generally going to see Nihilego not really doing well just because it gets hit so hard on the physical side. And there's so many things that hit it on the physical side. Like Garchomp, there's Kartana here. Lele hits it on the special side, but it still does enough to pick up a knockout on non-bulky variants. There's Celesteela on the format. There's so many physical attackers. Snorlax with high horsepower. Mudsdale sees a little bit of play, and it doesn't do enough damage to like make up for it. Like if it's not hitting something super effectively, Sludge Bomb and Power Gem are like decent stabs, but they're not like really high base power attacks that just like let Nihilego just like blow through teams. They're going to be limited in their damage output by what you're playing against. Whereas if you get a Beast Boost, you can kind of start rolling with those, but you need to get the Beast Boost first to actually get to that point where Sludge Bomb and Power Gem are actually threatening some of the bulkier mons in the format. So with all that in mind, we can start looking at Nihilego's sets and kind of like pick those apart and kind of see why exactly it has and hasn't been working to an extent. Since it has had some results recently, it's been cutting a few regionals. If it didn't cut the last few internets, it's come pretty close to. I know it cut Brazil. I don't know if it cut Melbourne, but I know that Wolf is just outside of top 8. So it's had some decent results. It just hasn't been able to like have a really good showing yet. I think the most common set that we've been seeing is the Focus Sash Nihilego set with Sludge Bomb, Power Gem, and Hidden Power Ice. This is just a really standard set. It hits a lot of things in the format very hard. Like we said, Garchomp is one of the biggest threats to Nihilego, so outspeeding Garchomp and being able to 2-hit KO it with HP Ice is a pretty decent option. You know, not a solid way to deal with Garchomp, but it gives you options when playing against Garchomp and how you want to play your Nihilego. So besides that, it's just pretty straightforward. You just run max special attack, max speed, outspeed all the things you want to, and then do as much damage as you possibly can. And the coverage is just really good for the format. So not too much to really change there. The Life Orb set is also very similar. I actually brought up the Scarf set. Where's the Life Orb one? Yeah. So the Life Orb set is very similar. The only thing is that without the Focus Sash, there are things that you're going to be going down to, like Celesteela and Garchomp. The trade-off is you get to pick up more consistent knockouts on things like Arcanine and Tapu Lele. I know there are some what Pokemon is that? Some Garchomp that can go down to HP Ice, but a lot of them are running the bulk, so Life Orb and Power Ice will miss the knockout on a decent amount of those. Life Orb actually was the most used item earlier on in the format, I think. But as the Garchomp got a lot bulkier, it became less viable to run HP Ice as a way to beat Garchomp. So now the Focus Sash sets run it as a way to just hit the Garchomp, have a way to hit the Garchomp. So if you do get some chip damage on it, then probably you can pick up a knockout that way. So outside of these two, I really don't like Scarf Nihilego. I don't think it's very good, but it is something that we have been seeing. Some people have been running it. The main thing that it does is it outspeeds Tapu Koko, so being able to outspeed Tapu Koko and hit up the Sludge Bomb is pretty important. Outside of that, it doesn't do too much. You can hit and power fire Kartanas that relies on not running into Focus Sash, which I still think a majority of them are, but you know, you can always chip it and then hit and power fire it, which is a surprise knockout at that point, since you know not most Nihilego are Scarf, but it did see a decent amount of usage on Battle Spot. I think a lot of Japanese players were running it. It had some pretty high usage stats on Battle Spot at one point of the season. I don't think it's quite that way anymore. We can actually check that out right now. I don't think I'm gonna check last season's just to get a better scope of like the entire season. So yeah, it was at like 13%, whereas Focus Sash and Life Orb were taking up around that's like 70% of the usage. So it had a little bit of usage in its time, but yeah, there's not too much different from the Sash and Life Orb sets in the sense that it's just a very fast special attacker that does a lot of damage because it has good coverage. The last move slot on this can be anything from Sludge Wave. It gets access to Thunderbolt. I've seen some people run Psyshock to win the Nihilego Mirror, so a few different ways you can run the Scarf set, but overall, I just don't like it. Doesn't hit hard enough without Beast Boost to really justify it. So I'm not too much of a fan of it, but it has been seeing some play, and I think it's pretty decent. It's just not really good. The set that I am definitely a fan of is the Wikiberry Nihilego set. So, Wikiberry Nihilego is very cool. It changes Nihilego and how it's played completely. It goes from this like really frail special attacker that's really fast to this really bulky special attacker that still has really good coverage but can actually take a few hits. I know from the special side at this point when you start adding HP to Nihilego, it actually becomes very hard to take out from the special side. I know Tapu Lele, this spread I believe survives max special attack Tapu Lele Psychic. That's without a boosting item, so no specs, no life orb, but it's still really cool. You can survive specs or life orb if you're able to change terrains, and a lot of the Nihilego teams will be running something like Tapu Bulu or Tapu Koko, so being able to change second terrain away is something you can do in a lot of Nihilego teams. So having the ability to take Psychic is pretty cool that you can return with a Sludge Bomb. Of course, Power Gem's still going to be hitting Arcanine just as hard. I like Trick Room on Nihilego. I think it's very similar to how Gardevoir played in the 2015 season when you run Trick Room Nihilego with this like weird middle speed tier. Because it does the thing where you hit very hard. Gardevoir, of course, with the spread Hyper Voice is going to be hitting a lot harder back in that format, but you know, Sludge Bomb and Power Gem hitting specific targets very hard in this format is also something that's really cool. And then with the lack of available speed control in the format, I think that Trick Room is a really cool option on Nihilego. Because it's like a middling speed tier, because you're not investing any of the speed, it's just faster than most of the you know, that 120 speed tier. The one that I have in Team Builder is 129, which outspeeds max speed Team and Pelipper. But most of the things that you're going to see around that speed tier, there's a lot of Tapu Leles and Arcanines that are around like 120, 121, 122. So being able to get the jump on a bunch of those mons and outspeed them and KO them, or do significant damage to them is pretty cool. Whereas you can also just go into Trick Room against like a lot of the faster teams that have like Tapu Koko and Garchomp and all these fun things, and just flip the switch, go into Trick Room, and you know, just kind of take the game from there. It's also really good against Tailwind, since a lot of people want to see the Trick Room coming in like a game 1 of the best of 3, and you can always go for the Trick Room. But of course, because a lot of the Nihilego Trick Room teams, like a lot of the teams with Trick Room Nihilego on them, generally will have some sort of a Trick Room makeup to them. It is kind of easy for an opponent to predict that Nihilego will have Trick Room, so it's something that you have to look out for. Besides that, it's just a really bulky mon. I know on the physical side, it can live a lot of stuff. One of the things that I calc for is Kartana Smart Strike at -1. You have to be at -1 to take it, but you are able to survive that hit. And one of the big things is that like even like resisted or neutral physical hits against Nihilego, we're always doing so much damage to it. Whereas if you actually start bulking it up, you're generally taking those hits decently well. And then with the Wikiberry recovery, you're not getting knocked out before that procs too often unless you're getting hit with a super effective attack. So generally it just makes Nihilego stay on the field a lot longer, and if you stay on the field for a long time and are able to click Sludge Bomb and Power Gem over the course of a bunch of turns, it's very good. Very similar to the similarly to this Nihilego is the Grassy Sea Nihilego. So I don't have a spread for this one, but it is something that we have been seeing. I know Wolf had run Grassy Seed. I was testing Electric Seed earlier on in the season. Basically what this does is very similar to what Wikiberry does. It gives you extra defensive bulk, so that Nihilego just becomes a very bulky mon that sits on the field for a large amount of turns. And this is really cool. The only thing I don't like about this set is I think that the Wikiberry set has a little bit more versatility. I think that having the ability to switch out Nihilego is pretty important. So having the Wikiberry allows you to do that, whereas if your Grassy Seed activates, you can't switch out Nihilego, or you have to lose the boost, and you have to make a choice there. So I definitely think it's still a strong option, potentially, but I think the Wikiberry set offers a little bit more versatility, it'll be a very similar set to the one that we see on the Life Orb set, the Wiki set. But yeah, for the most part, it's just going to be these two sets are just going to be bulky special attackers that can actually sit on the field for a long time and just fire off Sludge Bomb and Power Gem. So yeah, that is really it on Nihilego, guys. It's not too much to it. Generally, it's going to be running Sludge Bomb and Power Gem all the time, just because they're two very effective stabs in this format. It just gets bashed around so much, that's why it's not that heavily used. Oh, so what I've been saying is that Nihilego with the Wikiberry set, I think it's like one of the best standalone mons in the format. It's like a singular mon that you can throw on a team. The problem is, any team that you throw it on, it tends to destroy the team. And the reasoning behind that is because if you have Nihilego, and then you want to build from there, or you know that what teams you want to throw Nihilego on, you start with Nihilego and then you say, okay, I'm weak to Kartana and I want Intimidate because I have really weak physical defense, so I need Intimidate. So generally, since you're weak to Kartana already, you don't want to add something like Gyarados, so you're adding Arcanine in that situation. Now, if you're at Arcanine and Nihilego, you're already that Garchomp weak. It's like at that point you have to add Tapu Bulu or like Ninetales or something like that. And that's why we've seen like a majority of the Nihilego teams be the ban core. That's Bulu, Arcanine, and Nihilego. And I want to say a majority of the Nihilego teams that we've seen do well have been some variants of that team. The thing is they haven't done that well. They've done pretty average, slightly above average. It's just because the team is kind of like a patchwork team. If any singular part of the team like falls apart, like if you lose a specific mon early that you need to answer something else in the matchup, it just like the team completely unravels from there. It doesn't have enough to deal with the other threats of the team. You just need to be able to find a way to make Nihilego work on a team that doesn't make it so reliant on individual mons to win certain matchups. Like if you lose Tapu Bulu with Bulu, Arcanine, Nihilego, like you lose the Bulu early, then Garchomp just completely destroys the entire team. And while this is great, this also gets in situations where it's like, well, do I need the Nihilego to beat the opposing Arcanine? Do I need the Arcanine to beat the opposing Kartana? Because like each of the other two mons can't deal with the other mons that the specific mon like Arcanine is supposed to deal with. So Arcanine needs to deal with Kartana, but if it doesn't, I just lose. So it's an interesting mon. I think it's a mon that's flawed just in its concept and in general. I think it's a very interesting and cool mon though. I think that it does have a lot of potential still. I think somebody might be able to make it work in a different way. That still allows it to kind of show off some of the really cool traits that we've shown here. But that is really it from me today, guys. Thank you very much. Let me know what Pokemon you guys want to see me do next. I want to try and get these out maybe once a week. I'll layer these in with the Battle Spot content. Of course, MBL is also going up. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.